Hello everyone and welcome back to Run It Up number 57. Today we are playing a $50 heads up sit and go against Brent Hanks. Yes, that's right. Ultimate Poker Pro, Brent Hanks. I was, up a little early looking for some action, and Brent was kind enough to give it to me, which is sweet of him. So we have a pair and a flush draw here. I don't really know Brent's game very well. Sometimes I would check raise spots like this. Sometimes I would check call. I'm not really sure what to do. So in this particular case, I'm going to check call. Even though I think on this turn, if he decides to bet, we could definitely be behind. But because we have so much equity with the Jack of Diamonds and having a 4, I would almost for sure not fold on turn. At this point, I think it's very unlikely that he's going to have... maybe we should just bet. I don't know Brent very well, so I'm not really sure if he checks back on turn if he's more likely to have a pair or have nothing. If he has nothing, we'd want to check, of course, right, to give him a chance to bluff. But if he has a hand that's like a 4 or a 5 or like 2 black 6s, we want to bet and let him call. I'm not really sure what's best here, so I just picked with betting because I think that's probably slightly better. But we'll see how it goes. Meeting 2 p.m. I don't know. We'll see. 2 p.m. meetings. Yeah, I guess, sure. So I went to bed last night, 8 p.m. Yes, that's right, 8 p.m. like the farmer. Woke up at 6 a.m. Yes, that's what happened. And was looking for action earlier, but didn't really get too much. Lost a little bit. I'll make that accounting reflect. Don't worry. If we will get that covered. In this spot, I bet flop, and at this point, I don't really know. I think I want to bet turn just because there's some chance he folds better hands than ours. Some chance he actually calls with worse if he has like Queen Jack, Jack 10, something like that. Maybe there's some chance those hands will call. Don't think we have the best hand anymore. We have the board. I don't really think that there's a chance that Brent will fold a king. I don't think he's particularly strong here, but there's some chance he has an ace. And if he has a king, I don't think he folds that anyway. We chop against like Queen X and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think that hand is going to necessarily fold on the river. It's a close situation for him. I'm not sure how he perceives me or anything like that. So I decided just to let that one go. Going to be defending here with 6-8 of spades. I was planning on doing cash games, something a little bit bigger, but just there wasn't really much else going at this time of day, and I tried to do a couple other different things. Didn't seem like it was going to work out too well, though. 8 a.m. I've learned not necessarily the best time to shoot Run It Up videos. Lesson learned for the future, My energy level is fine because I'm relatively refreshed, but not necessarily the best for action. Very happy to bet here. I mean, I think most likely Brent's got a hand that's like ace 10, something like that. Maybe he has a hand like 2 6s, somewhere in that range. I'd be surprised if he was stronger than us here, just how he's played this hand. Once in a while we lose to like weak 9s maybe. Maybe Brent has, or like maybe he has like king 8 suited, something like that. But I would think we win here more often than not. Yeah, it makes sense. Check back flop, call turn. That makes sense, I think he played his hand reasonably enough. Blinds usually go up every 4 minutes. We haven't done one of these in a while, so I was pretty happy to do a heads up sit and go. Blinds will be going up every 4 minutes, so got a little bit of pressure eventually. But right now we're just gonna cruise to find out some things about our opponent. So knowing that Brent checked back that 9 there is gonna make us. We'll adjust to it in the future in terms of how we're going to adjust. Well, we're going to be a little bit more hesitant to make thinner value bets with like hands like we had. We'll be like a little bit more cautious in spots like that because he's going to be more likely to have pairs, right? But it'll also encourage us to bluff a little bit more because when he checks back hands like that, he's kind of asking for pressure, and he really can't withstand tons of it if he's checking back too much. So like in a spot like this, when he checks back, he's more likely to have a 6 or a better 5 or something like that than like the average person. But we're still going to bet because we probably have the best hand. We want to get some value out of like ace highs, stuff like that. But I'm probably not going to bet the river here if he had called on turn. So all right, we have chipped away a little bit. Accumulation. That's right. If I hope you had a nice weekend. First of all, let's go. Let's be nice. How was your weekend? Nice. My weekend was great. Thanks for asking. I guess we fold here. Our hand is so bad. My weekend was mostly highlighted by, for the first time in a long time, I was able to watch the UFC event on Saturday from start to end, which I guess is a good way to watch something. But I watched every single bout on Saturday, And man, what a card to be available for. It was probably one of the best UFC cards ever. Certainly one of the best in recent memory. Every single fight was great. Super, like amazing finishes, fantastic battles. So really good. If you're a UFC fan and didn't see it, you really need to check it out. I also happened to bet almost every fight on the card and did pretty well, all in all. So I was a happy camper for several reasons, not just for my viewing pleasure, not purely as like a pure viewer entertainment thing. We defended here with Queen 4 offsuit against the min raise, and our opponent decided to bet flop, which is fine. We could have check raised, but I don't really have that dynamic set up to like check raise and then do what from there. On this ace turn card, we're gonna have to just check call if Brent decided to bet. The fact that he checks back makes me feel like we're probably losing this hand, right? Because let's pretend that Brent had 10-9 offsuit on the turn. He would probably bet because it's a scary card, but he might just give up entirely here. He might just assume that we have a queen too often and that he's just gonna just give up. I think that's reasonable. Once again, in this particular spot, I don't really know what's best. I don't know Brent's game well enough to know if he's capable of checking back here, if he's like always got it when he bets here, or if he's just like making us guess or what. I actually think that we're more likely to be like, what a weird bluff this would be like. Think about this. Let's say that Brent decided not to bluff the turn ace. Why would he decide to bluff the river 10? Like, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me that he would decide to do that. I mean, it seems like if he was going to bluff, he would decide to bluff the turn instead of on the river where it's so clearly that we're just going to like call very often. Now, he definitely could bluff us for sure. He could be on the next level and be like, well, he knows that I know that he knows that I know. Like, for sure. He could definitely be bluffing there. Absolutely. But I think that more likely than not, I feel like that's probably a fine fold. Could be wrong. It's happened before. I did bet Cain Velasquez against Brock Lesnar. Brock against Cain. So I've been wrong before about some things. But yeah, not sure about that. I'm just, it's all educated guessing in this poker game of ours, isn't it? Going to be betting this turn here when he checks back on flop. I feel like he's kind of giving us the green light to attack here. So attack I will. Seems like a fine spot to put some pressure on. He's kind of unlikely to have a straight here, and we're somewhat likely to have a straight, so sure, why not? Let's fire it. Let's fire it on in there. Jack 4 offsuit, going to be attacking here. If you've watched these heads-up videos before, I'm definitely a big advocate of finding out what your opponent likes to do, what they're capable of doing, trying to put them in like, you're trying to size them for a cage, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're designing cages. That's right. Number 57. We're cage designers. That's right. Great name for a video. Fantastic. There we go. We've birthed it. That's right. How do you like that birth motion, huh? That's something. That's great. It's like partially from like the Street Fighter, I'm not really a big Street Fighter guy, but it's like the shuriken, that's what it feels like. I'm sure I'm getting that name wrong, but I'm not really a Street Fighter fan, but it feels like that's what it is. A little bit. All right, gonna bet here twice. We could have the best hand with a 4. It's possible, but I think that there's some chance he'll fold a better hand than us. There is something to be said for just betting in case he has a worse hand than us. He has 10-9, if he has 2 diamonds, even if he just has like King Jack or King Queen, I'm fine betting and just getting him to fold those hands is okay. But I think betting makes more sense than checking. And now on the river here, I think we just check back. Like, I don't think Brent's going to fold too often. And sometimes he actually has a better straight than us. So I'm fine with just checking back and seeing what he has. So surprised that he had 2 pair there. What do we bet flop or check back? Yeah, frowny face. I think we bet flop and turn, right? I think we bet flop and turn. So I think he played his hand reasonably, and I think we played our hand reasonably and just kind of got lucky to chop up on the river. Just a little bit. Don't cry too much. It's still kind of early. Going to be betting here once on the turn and see what happens on the river. 8 a.m. jokes. I don't usually get to make 8 a.m. jokes, so I take advantage when I can, All right. So I think I'm just done, right? I think I just wave the old white flag here and say, you got it. I mean, he checked back on flop, so we could definitely have some collection of spades. We also have seen him check back with like those marginally good hands in other spots, so I think he's more likely than the average person to show up with a spade here. Certainly don't think he's. I don't know whether he would fold that if I blasted it or not. I'm not really 100% if he would have folded that or not. But I think just generally the decision not to bluff on the river is probably fine for us. You know, there's no reason to suspect that he's super wide, right? And there isn't to think that he just has like a red jack or something like that. So I think more often than not, he's going to show up with something that doesn't want to fold. Pretty happy with this flop here. We're going to start with a bet. I think 100 seems fine. Not going to fold if Brent puts pressure on us. Obviously, we've got ourselves top pair. You know, pair status, a great thing. I think like that Brent is not going to fold here. Tank, 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 raise. So we've got a decision between calling and shoving. I think that both are viable depending on what we think Brent is capable of. I think I like calling a little bit better, and then we're not going to fold on most turn cards. The worst turn card here is a queen for us. Ace is bad in a way that it makes him maybe likely to shut down if he was bluffing, that he might be afraid that we have an ace here. So I think that this is a weird, interesting kind of hand here. I think that I'm going to check back turn and call off on river, right? All right, well, there's that turn card we were afraid of. There's the old queen that we were worried about. I don't know what I'm going to do if he shoves here. He definitely is capable of shoving with a lot of hands, and it's a great spot for him to do it. But I guess against the check, we just check back. We just check back now, right? Because I thought that he was likely to be bluffing on the flop. And if he was bluffing, he can't call now. So for us to bet, he has to call with an 8 or a worse jack. And I don't really think those things are necessarily very likely. So I think I'm just going to check back. And all right, fair enough. I guess we were probably not winning that one unless we decided to bluff. But all right, fair enough. The old 3-4 puppy dog feet. Happy to take that one to the flop. So you've check raised. All right. Yeah, I think you play this hand relatively reasonably. He's also afraid of the ace on the turn because he has a jack, which makes sense. And then on the river, he's still afraid, so he just checks. So, okay. That seems reasonable to me. Could put some pressure on Brent here. This is one of those flops we could check raise. One of the downsides of doing this, though, is that if we check raise and Brent defends, which he definitely is, you know, he has opposition and chip lead, so he definitely could do. The problem with check raising in a spot like this, even though he's going to fold a good percentage of the time, when he doesn't fold, we put so much of our stack in, it's kind of bad for us, right? So I think we want to kind of avoid spots like that and just kind of pick our spots a little bit better. However, because the blinds go up so fast, maybe we should be putting pressure on in spots like that. But again, with our exact hand, I think it's fine. Just generally speaking, we're going to have to put pressure on just because we don't have much of a choice, because blinds will be going up in a minute to 50, 100. So going to start here with a bet. We're going to win this hand way more often than lose it. You know, given the stack sizes and stuff like that, we're going to just have aces so much more often than Brent will have them. So I think we're going to bet here twice. No reason not to. I mean, Brent's going to fold. Brent's going to often enough fold queen. Queen's probably not folding. 7's going to fold. Actually, maybe I don't love this either. I don't know if he folds enough, but I don't think he's folding a queen, but I thought he was going to fold a 7. Maybe he'll fold like other things that were just like sticky. Just the fact that he folded there doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good bet on our part, and I'm not really sure that it was. It's definitely close. Once again, the problem with it is that if it doesn't, you're right. If it doesn't work out, we just lose so much of our stack, right? Like if it doesn't work out, we have like 500 chips and we're going to give up on the river most likely, right? So if it doesn't work out for us, we're in like a really awkward, weird spot with stacks not great and all this other stuff. So I'm not necessarily sure I love that bluff, but at the time I thought that there was a good chance he would fold if we barreled, which he did. So maybe it was okay. Not sure about that one. We'll have to think about. We'll have to digest it. Let me know in the comments below. Do you like the bluff? Do you bluff? I don't know. It's up to you. All right, so we check back. Brent checked back on this flop here. Interesting that he checked back in this situation. So it's possible that Brent's 100% to win the hand here. And once again, like I don't really know what his strategy is with this. You know, like I'm not necessarily sure if Brent's strategy to check back on this flop is to induce action. It could be a way to disguise his bluff, right? Because it looks very strong when he checks back on an ace 5-5 board as pre-flop raiser. So he could be doing some sort of like delayed bluff. That's certainly possible because I wasn't going to fold king high on the flop, right? In most cases, I'd be pretty happy about that. So I guess we just fold now. So I think that I don't really know. Given that this is a shorter sample size, that's kind of why the skill element is a little bit lower in these faster blind levels, because there's just less information. So I don't really know what Brent's strategy is checking back on. Like, he's checked back on a lot of flops and he's only shown down one of them as far as I can remember. So gonna have to shove here. I mean, it's fine mathematically speaking. 850 to win 100. Actually, we're risking 800 to win 150. It's actual math because our blind is dead. Do pick up that little pot there. In 4 minutes, blinds will be 75, 150. So we want to have about at least 1,000 or so heading into that blind level if we can help it. So this is probably weak. We could attack here, but given that our hand is so poor, I think I'm fine with just checking. If our hand was a little bit better, I would probably do something aggressive, but I think it's fine to let him see the flop here. So we've made it to pair status. The question is, do we want to check call or check raise all in? He could have hands that have 7s and 9s in them. That's not unreasonable, but I think our hand is likely good enough that... I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do here. I'm going with calling. That's a pretty good turn card for us and makes this decision very easy. I'm not really sure what to do on this flop here because, once again, I'm not really sure what his limping strategy is. This was his very first limp of the match. You know, I think that if we had a 7 or a 9, we would check raise all in for sure. But if we had a hard draw, if we had any kind of combination of draws, stuff like that, I tried to give him a chance to bluff. I thought the king would maybe get him to bluff, but he did not want to cooperate. He escaped to the cage for that one. So yeah, I think that hand comes down to the flop. Like, do we want to check raise all in, check call, or check fold? Like, those are all relatively viable and worth considering, and it really depends on your opponent and all of that stuff. So Brent decides to lead here for 200. I think this is probably going to be like a pair or flush draw, that kind of thing. So I think I'm going to just shove. I could have considering like min raising or doing something else, but I think given our hand is I think our hand actually looks weakest by just shoving instead of anything else. Oh, just 2 kings. Well, we're going to need a heart, an 8 or a 9, otherwise Brent will ship it. GG. What can you do? He played his hand great, obviously. Defended it pre-flop was actually a really good defend pre-flop by him because it let us make a pair, and his flop lead was really good too. So I think actually Brent's play was really good that match, and I'd be curious to know what he had in some of those other spots. Maybe we'll have to figure that out later. I actually think maybe there'd be a cool format for a video, to do a video where we like played a heads-up match with somebody and then went over it later, or recorded them and somehow talked about our hands like side by side. Could be some cool things to do in the future. So if this sounds cool to you, let me know in the comments below, and maybe we can have Brent come on and we'll do a rematch, you know, a little rematch it up, run it back, if you will. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back with more tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching as always, and I will see you soon. Peace.